you're the first person I ever shown this place to.
And why am I so special?
Because soon we'll be Christopher and Mary Robin.
You should be close now.
We're not going to find them.
We will. Pooh, Piglet, Eeyore, we were friends for many years, and they're out there.
Christopher, we need to leave. Now.
I really need to find out what's happening, okay?
This place is kind of cold. And did you say it has a pool? We need to go! There's there. There's someone else outside. What was that?
We used to be friends. Why are you doing this, please? I would have never left us.
Hi, Simon Foster here from the Screen Watching Podcast. I'm joined today by the man who seems determined to negate, destroy, crush any of the good childhood memories I still have left in me. His name is Rhys Frake-Waterfield. He's the man, the twisted mind, or the commercially brilliant mind, you might say, behind Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Rhys, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much, Simon. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys.
Congratulations on the film. It's a fun piece of work. It's a nasty piece of work. When did the idea to turn this iconic, beloved children's character into a slasher come about? Was the idea first, or was the fact that it was headed for public domain first the impetus?
So we're always trying, well, I'm always trying to come up with like concepts and like potential films and villains which are a bit outside of the mold, because I'm a massive horror fan, and I get really bored with like zombies, werewolves, ghosts. Like there's loads of those out there.
Yeah.
And because we work on a little bit of a lower budget compared to like studios, those guys, they do a lot of those sort of films, so we need something to like stand out. So I always try and go for something outside of the mold. Now every basically month, I'm trying to think of differing ideas and go like, oh, what if this was a killer? What was that? That was a killer? And I look at like fairy tales, folklores, and this was one what whilst I was having my thoughts then, and I noticed it went into the public domain, and we were like, this would be amazing, like Winnie the Pooh. And yeah, I had like this sparkle in my eye because I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And normally I kind of primarily I produce, so I just get the projects going and I get an external director on, but I do love directing, and I just needed the right sort of project to like get my hands on. And then when I noticed this was available, I was like, no one else is having this. I have to be the one who does this. So yeah, then as soon as I realized it was possible and we had that, I was just like, all the ideas started flowing. I was like, oh, I could do this with it, I could do that with it. And there was two kind of routes I was thinking about with it. One was like, do I make him, and this is probably people's first instinct, if you went, there's going to be a Winnie the Pooh horror film, most people will go, okay, he's going to be like Chucky. He's going to be small, and he's going to like run around and like that other horror film, Pinocchio's Revenge, and he's small, just stab people.
Sure.
But I was like, no, like that isn't, I thought that's the first thing to do, but I feel like it would be rubbish. So I was like, okay, I want to go down a completely different route, and I want to make him massive. I want to make him really big, like basically nearing on bear size. And then I thought, okay, then I was thinking, should I make him a bear, like an actual bear and all hairy? And I thought, no, that would look rubbish as well. And then for a process of iteration, I was like, okay, what if I made him like half man, half bear? And I was like, yes, I think that would work really well, because like that way I can give him hands and that was a big thing for me because I wanted it to go down that kind of slasher route. And I was like, if he's got hands, he can grip machetes, chains, sledgehammers, and it just opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it was just really interesting thinking of like a villain being half bear and half man, and
Well,
half pig and
exactly.
half man.
Yeah, the design elements of Winnie and certainly of Piglet. I mean, you go down a really sort of nightmarish path with the horns coming out of the face, the real razorback sort of look of Piglet. And Pooh is this sort of hulking human form, which and I found it really interesting because obviously there's that introduction to the two killers and we have a bit of a giggle that it's Winnie and Piglet and that sort of stuff, but then it settles into a very legitimate and very convincing sort of slasher pick. Like, and I sense that one of your long-term aims is to turn Winnie into a sort of this generation's Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. There's that sort of element to it.
Yeah, so it kind of blew way out of proportion. Like at the start, like I knew, like I thought it was commercial and it was special, and like it would maybe get a small theatrical run.
Yeah.
But then it just started, as soon as some of the stills started going online in the trailer, it just went crazy and it just went everywhere. And then that's when I've now had this thought, it's like there's actually potential for him to like become a bit of like an icon, which
Yeah.
is mad because he looks so ridiculous. Like when and I still laugh to this day, like when I see some of the pictures online, I'm like, I can't believe I made this. And then second, I can't believe this many people are interested in it.
Yeah.
Because
It's
it just looks so weird.
yeah.
Um but yeah, and you're right. I kind of wanted them to go down like a Michael Myers route, both of them. Just because I thought, it's more scary, and like the whole him talking was a bit of a challenging thing for me because he talks loads in the book and in, like other interpretations of him.
Sure.
But I was thinking that could, if I try to take it down that route, there's a chance it just bombs and it's just really, really bad.
It gets very
And
silly. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and it just goes too silly and too weird. Whereas like, and it's hard to pull that off really, really well, to be honest. And it takes a super, like a lot of care to ensure
Yeah.
it's going to translate well and time. So like Chucky does it really, really well, for example, but most other villains are kind of quite quiet and silent.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, okay, it's a little bit of a de-risking way of approaching this. It's like if I don't get him to talk much, it feeds into the horror side of it more, and I'll try and have scenes which kind of tell the story of what's happening to him just in silence, and it's everything else which is going around and his emotions and bits which lead to which give you some sort of idea on what's going through his head and his turmoil.
You beautifully explain in that opening animation the backstory as to why he's silent and to why the 100-acre wood residents have turned nasty. It's a lovely nod to the source material, that opening animation, but it's also truly nightmarish. Give us some idea how that all came together.
So yeah, like I really like the opening animation, and
Yeah, so
it's
do
one
I.
of mine and a lot of other people's favorite parts. And the reason I wanted to start the film like that is the source material in the books in 1926, they were very like rough illustrations and rough sketches. um so they weren't very like, but were very pristine and detailed. They were just kind of a little bit flat at points, I guess. And I wanted to try and make sure that in this opening animation I had that similar style, because the whole point is you're going from a book to a live action version of them. And I thought this would be a nice kind of transfer into it. And what I wanted to portray in that opening sequence was, I kind of had pets in mind. I was kind of viewing Winnie the Pooh as like a pet, and like you nurture your pet, you love your pet, you kind of provide them food and you look after them. And if you left them in the woods and they got abandoned, which is like the general theme of the film, then they would have to resort to their kind of animalistic roots and become a bit more feral again. And that would change completely their mannerisms, how they act, and if they then saw you again and they came across you, I thought they might have this really strange, like twisted view on how to react with you. It's like
Yeah.
some of them might love you straight away, but other animals may have this like conflicted mindset of like, I loved you at one point, but you did just completely abandon me and leave me or injure
Yeah.
me or so. And it's like those two emotions are like conflicting, and like warping their head a bit. And that's why throughout the film, like, Christopher Robin is like the only person who has any kind of hesitation at killing, but
Yeah.
everyone else he'll just slaughter them, like, he don't care. But that's that's kind of what I was trying to get across in that 2 minutes. What's happened to them in their backstory, and do it in that sort of 2D sketchy way,
Yeah.
because it's also, I thought it was a really nice idea, and also, like, we didn't have a huge amount of money for what we're doing, and it's a very effective way to kind of get that message across, because if I was to try and do it in a live action way, I would need loads more kind of costumes, like,
Yep.
um kind of characters, loads more people would have to get involved, different locations, and
Sure.
it would have been a very, very expensive 2 minutes of the film, whereas this kind of achieved everything, and it didn't like break the bank. So,
Beautiful.
and yeah, it works really, really well, and some of the animations are so cool, and the
Yeah.
music, like, I love them. The music is one of my favorite bits throughout the film. The narrator, he was one of my friends as well, and I wanted him to put a bit like, make sure it went really British,
Yep.
because the story overall of the Hundred Acre Woods, it originated in, the UK, and we actually shot the film round where the Hundred Acre Woods was, so it was kind of true to the area and the woods.
Nice.
And yeah, I just wanted the narrator to be British too, so it's like you get this kind of nice introduction to a kind of British book, and then it leads you into, the rest of the film. So
The madness, the madness. I do
yeah.
just want to return very quickly to the, it's not the sexy part of the film, but the rights issue. Now, I did a little bit of research, and as I understand it, the Pooh Properties Trust and a lady named Shirley Schlesinger was pretty much in litigation with Disney for about 3 decades, until Disney paid her $300 million. And as of 2009, Disney owned both the original A.A. Milne and the Pooh Property Trust rights to Winnie the Pooh. And Disney still have a trademark on Winnie the Pooh. So how cautious did you have to be that you weren't treading on toes, or you didn't have Disney suits banging at your door, or where was the line that allowed you to use the character?
So, like, it's generally in the public domain. So that was
Right.
one side to it. And it's not the Pooh character overall. It's only the kind of 1926 version, which was the first book.
Right.
And in what we had to do was, well, when I was like writing it and coming up with a story, was make sure I kind of forgot everything what Disney have done,
Right.
following that book, because any iteration or changes from the source material, which is in the public domain, which they've kind of introduced into their interpretation of him, like the red shirt, like how he says "oh bother," his tone of his voice, everything most people kind of associate to him, really, that's completely their property and their IP, and if someone tried to go near that, they'd get sued. And I've noticed there are actually a few people out there who mistake this and think that Pooh in general is in the public domain, and that they can have like a little red shirt Pooh running around.
Wow.
Like there
So
was
you
a
had to
video
be
game.
very cautious about every
Yeah,
small
yeah.
element like that. Wow.
Yeah, so you have to like really go back to like the source material, make sure you only use stuff which is kind of in there. That's why Tigger isn't in the film, because he wasn't in the 1926 book.
Yep.
There is another law, like the parody law, which you can try and rely on if you want to. Like, there was a Grinch film recently, the meme one, and that one, that's what they kind of completely relied on, because the Grinch is in the public domain at the moment, and
Mhm.
yet they've got a theatrical release. And that's kind of what South Park relied on in the past, because in some of their episodes they've got Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, and like Mickey Mouse in there, and they are exactly as you imagine them,
Mm.
as Disney characters, and they've got them doing crazy things like strangling people and all this. We didn't want to really heavily rely on uh, going towards that route with parody, and that's why kind of with this character I didn't. It's another reason why I wanted to make them as different as possible to the Disney stuff, is
Sure.
because there is a chance I could like looked into it more and got an IP lawyer and said, like, you know, if I went down this route and how does this work in parody? Can I just get even closer to them? Could I have him in a red shirt? Can I just make him look like how he does in Disney? But that wasn't the intention. So I kind of wanted him to go down this different route, and it was also nice that it was just so far gone from their concept that if you have both of them next to each other, there's no way you're mistaking one for the other. No one would, because our one's like 6.5 foot. He kills people. He wears pants. Like, there's loads of like these like major differences. He doesn't really have the same, you know, general tone and stuff. So I'm sure no kid is ever gonna look at that and go, that's the friendly Winnie the Pooh. Like, that's definitely the evil and bad one.
Wow, he kills people and he wears pants. What the
Yeah.
ultimate villain? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we were thinking about no pants, but the actor didn't want to do that.
Mate, I guess finally, you've already had major box office success in some territories. A month from now, you will have played 3,000 odd screens around the world. To see your little estimates are about $100,000 film do meet this sort of, get this sort of response from the distribution sector and hopefully the audience, that's an extraordinary journey.
Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy because, like we're saying, I never expected this to go to the sort of scale it has, and it's doing really, really well. Like you're right, in Mexico alone, it's done incredible. So we're really hoping that on the 15th, you know, it's gonna do really well overall. And my kind of aim from this is, I really want to do like concepts which are just different to the typical horror villains. So I don't want to do, you know, like witches and zombies and like vampires and that. Like, I want to try and just make different stuff. And that's not going to be kind of just Disney characters. Like, there's so many things out there you can do. Like, we're going to have some where we're trying to create completely original ideas, others where we're going to see how we can twist and change things and create like a bit of a universe. And you can do that from like one of the other ones we're considering is Bambi. And then you've also got, Bambi's going to be mental. But there's like fairy tales and nursery rhymes as well, which you can twist and change. And there's loads of like really old school like grim fairy tales which haven't really been utilized that much. And we're trying to see if like, what ones of these could we twist and change and, you know, bring a horror adaptation to. And it's really exciting for me because it's also like showing the success of things like this and this concept. I hope it's going to start motivating other people and like studios and stuff to start trying these different kind of ideas, because that's what I really want. Like, I get so excited when I hear like a concept like the Mean One or Five Nights at Freddy's, because it's just like, it's so wacky and weird. And sometimes that's what I want from a horror film. Like, I don't want them like all to be kind of like grounded and kind of like elevated horror. Like, some I just want just to be fun, silly, and like I just want to go in just having a good time. And yeah, so
oh, you've
and
achieved
that's what
all
I'm
of,
hoping there's
you've
more of
achieved
that.
all of that with Winnie the Pooh, mate. It's fun, it's silly, it's a good time, it's all the things that it promises to be. So Rhys, thank you so much for joining us on Screen Watching. Good luck with the rollout of the film, and I can't wait to see your next stuff.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks everyone.
All right, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.